these guys got dropped off for day one, and I believe this one here went to a board and train that was positive only. So when they were dropped off, they were jumping and all that stuff. So they've been here approximately an hour and a half. I corrected this one earlier because he was just non-stop barking, which is not uncommon for the first day. They're friendly social dogs. This guy's a puppy still, he's a Rhodesian. You can still see how he's anxious with the panting. I've done nothing with him yet because I want to catch this on video. So this, he's 6 months. The lady did mention that she was interested in training to build his confidence. So he's kind of a skittish dog. So we definitely get some insecurity, but like a lot of anxiety. You can see. So what I'm gonna do is, I've not done anything with them. I did. She said that if we wanted to, we could put a prong on them, the correcting and things like that. So that's why it's super important that we have access to these tools, because these tools allow us to effectively address dogs' behaviors that we don't want. He did do a board and train, positive reinforcement. A lady herself said that she's not sure what they taught them. So hopefully I get to talk to her more about that, and then just educate the public on, always make sure you do your research. In my opinion, trainers who are good or reliable have lots of content up. That's why we film everything now, because we have the access to. And we're very transparent. There's trainers that have been around for like 30 years, and I can barely find anything on them. So, and yet people still go to them, and then I end up training their dogs later. So, Aversos are perfectly healthy. So for this guy, if his mom disagreed with it, like his litter mom, she would just bite him. Of course, dogs are very tolerant of things like this. Like, they're not really so much annoyed by whining and all that stuff, but they do not like the instability, the anxiety. So they may potentially correct that. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna get this guy fitted very quickly. And this is similar to Doc, the blind pit bull that you saw us work with maybe a week or so ago with his kennel anxiety on his daycare day. So I'm going to get this fitted. So I'm not going to care that he stepped out at the moment, but so, one thing that people commonly think is that you can't correct the dog after the fact, and you technically can, okay? You just have to know that the dog's in the same mind state. Let me just address this guy real quick. So here, alright, so I got two dogs here that are feeding off each other. They're the same family. They're both very friendly. This guy was super barky, especially because we have two dogs in here playing, and it was just bark. It was very loud, pronounced bark. So I corrected him earlier because that we couldn't ignore because it was just too annoying. So we corrected him, and they were feeding each other energy because they were both, it's a new environment. They're under stress. They're both anxious. They've not had any formal, structure. So I dressed him first because he was really just pining, and only the occasional bark. So we ignored it for a bit. So they got dropped off at 7:30. It's approximately 9 o'clock now. I addressed him about 7:45 to 8 o'clock, and then I left him alone for approximately an hour to hour and a half to let it escalate, to give you guys a visual. So here, when I'm approaching, he was getting more anxious and stuff. He ran out the kennel, which is, we don't want that. I ignored it, collared him up, rotated the collar, fitted, adjusted his skin and his fur, clipped the leash, and then gave about 3 to 4 corrections. And then you saw a little bit of resistance, but eventually he shot in there. So despite the fact that he had ran out for a few seconds before I actually addressed him, it still resonates to the anxiety because he's still stuck within that moment. Because when he came out, the first thing he did was tuck himself into me, which was seeking comfort. And most people would want to comfort. You don't want to comfort because then you're reinforcing the anxiety. So since I knew he was still within the mental state of anxiety, I could technically still correct, which I did. Then he runs in there, and then we get a little bit of shaking, the lip licking, the panting, which is fine. And then this guy got worked up because he saw his family member or pack member let out and all that stuff. And then there was some energy from when I corrected him. So then he got a little bit edgy. So then I take my time, I come over, he tries to come out, I give a quick correction, then he goes and lays back to the end of the kennel, okay? So this does not create a negative with the kennel. He's just learning to now settle, okay? So when I correct them, I'm capping the behavior, and I'm saying you can't do that, and you're not gonna go further than this, and you need to de-escalate. So when you see a dog go to the back of the kennel, this is not, a bad thing. I want to see them go to the back of the kennel. It means they are now disinterested with leaving the kennel, okay? And the want or desire to leave the kennel is what leads to the anxiety, separation anxiety, the barking, the whining, the complaining, the not wanting to be in there. But when you remove those options of you can't come out unless I give you permission and there's going to be a correction, then you get this. You get a more relaxed, settled state. Until eventually they learn the structure and then they go like, oh, okay, at Jesse's place we can't, pull our shenanigans, and there's consequences for it. You start to see them relax more, and then eventually you won't even need these prong collars or the leashes anymore. They'll just go in and settle because they know that we won't accept that. So this guy's 6 months, and he's not had formal discipline. So that's part of the reason why he's so worked up is because no one's bitten him. And in the animal world, in the dog world, the way they toughen each other up is by biting them and by bullying each other. It's perfectly normal behavior. They know how to do it amongst themselves in a healthy fashion, and then they eliminate weak energy, which is a totally another thing, right? So if you go on YouTube and you search, mothers correcting their puppies, you'll find a number of videos, and I found some really great ones, and I have a playlist labeled Mothers Correcting Puppies, so feel free to go to watch all those videos, and you'll see the mom coming in, and just like dominating them, biting them, messing around. Like there's one with I think it was a golden retriever, just harassing a little puppy for like 2 to 3 minutes straight, and it's whining and yelping and crying and all that stuff. She just keeps messing with it, and eventually it just submits and relaxes, right? Because she was toughening that puppy up, and you see it. It's all the way sitting in the corner, isolated, trying to be antisocial, and she like forces him out into the center of the playpen. So. The reason why we have dogs with issues is because people don't want to raise their puppies like they're supposed to be raised, which is with discipline, consequences, physical discipline. We're not talking about scolding and yelling no and putting them in timeout, things like that. Dogs do not do that to each other. They bite each other, okay? So that's why prong collars are good. I prefer e-collar, but of course not every dog is going to come in here with an e-collar, but if we can at least use a prong collar, it allows us to address these minor things. So you can see how very quickly these two just settled. You can see he's actually looking more relaxed now. He's not panting as heavy anymore. Now he's laying his head down because I capped him. And I said that whatever you're doing right now is nonsense, okay? And it didn't take me a lot of effort. It took me a couple of corrections, but I know how to correct correctly. And I put some considerable amount of force behind it because I need them to take it seriously from the start. People tend to try to ease their puppy into things or ease their dog into things with soft corrections. That just teaches your dog that you're soft. It teaches them that they know what you're trying to do. They know that you're trying to correct them, but they know that you do not have the confidence to go to the extent needed to get them to dial down, so they will take advantage of that. And then you're making more work for yourself in the long run because then you have to override that thought process. And I want the point to be instantaneous right off the bat. When you come here, that behavior is not allowed, period. And that saves us a lot of work. So that was very quick. This was pretty typical for a puppy. So typically you want to get rid of this at 2 months, but he's 6 months, it is what it is. And make sure to research your board and train or whatever dog facility you're taking your dogs to. I'm Jesse with Canine Perspective. Thank you for watching.